One of the highlights of this season for me has been Sentenced to be a Hero. There's been so many thoughtful and wonderful anime last season, but for sheer fun, Sentenced to be a Hero is really up there. And I had this show completely wrong. So it's fabulously shot, amazingly animated. It has this music that makes it feel like each action scene is life or death. Like this guy could die at any minute despite there being 10 episodes left, and that's no small feat, that. But what's most captured me is how a show which seemed just unendingly grim, a crapsack world full of corruption and awful people, it's turned into a real feel-good kind of thing. Billions must smile, it's that meme. Sentenced to be a Hero is nothing like I thought it was, and that's a very good thing, because where it started was with this kind of overwhelming darkness. So the first episode, I thought this was going to be a show heavy with its world and lore and probably not a lot of colour. If this one was anything to go by, and maybe some shallower characters, especially given that this guy is the protagonist. My initial thought on him was Edgelord McEdgelord face. I was entirely wrong. Really, that opening episode can show you exactly where this is going. I just wasn't paying enough attention. The basic setup to the series is that this guy has been sentenced to be a hero. Yeah, wow, you needed a YouTube video to tell you that. Which is like the worst fate imaginable in this world. They become perpetual soldiers on the front lines and slowly lose their sense of self through repetitive resurrections. They're all Duncan, Idaho, if you've read the later Dune books. They're all Duncan, Idaho. It's an eternal punishment in this world, being Duncan, Idaho'd. It's a cool setup. The first episode even kicks in with this crazy action, people running from the demon blight knights being overwhelmed, leaving just our batch of scumbags to fight them off. There's this dark colour palette and blood spewing everywhere very quickly when you first turn it on, and a protagonist who is already in a fate worse than death. And he's cool, dark, all that. The opening does have some amazing action. Like, look at this scene of a knight gutting a monster. This whole scene, actually. I'm fond of the monster eating this guy. These things will be taken seriously through the whole show, but the body horror they have here in the opening, the way they're shot as more than just little grunt monsters to be farmed, it's behind the episode's success. You make the stakes feel high by treating it this seriously. It feels rough. It feels like a real fight because there's so much weight and pain. And then it's not. Because a coffin gets stolen and a goddess gets summoned and then bonded to Xylo. It does turn out to be his second bonded goddess attack weapon child, you know? It's just how this show's backstory is. But there's this underbelly to the whole world that's present throughout. Each character starts in their lowest place. The opening can sell this as a much less fun show than it is. It feels oppressive. Like, damn, Xylo, just chill out a little bit, would you? Stop brooding. You don't have to be so intense 24/7. It's such a long episode too, but the turning point comes after the goddess has woken up and bonded, in a scene which brings in the most tam light we see in this entire opener. Look at this. She's the source of light in these scenes to a point. It's the brightest our opening gets. We pan from one light source to another with the same colour grading. She is the source of the happiness, the source of the change, the source of the world opening up from the grim dark mess we saw before she woke up. Sentenced to be a Hero starts dark and it ends in head pats and brightness and sparkling magic pink swords. It has to be that way, because that's what the characters are. I was completely wrong for a while longer though, since Terita takes longer to have an effect on the people around her than the scene's lighting does. He rejects her help, plunges himself back into darkness until he's forced to embrace the show's premise later. It's not very subtle. The sign of Xylo stumbling in the fog is a real showcase in sound design. It really puts you in the shoes of the attack and the effect on him. It's a really impressive sequence, and one I think it would have been talked about like a lot more if this didn't appear in the most stacked season. It's a really memorable way to start things off. And ending the first episode of him kicking the equivalent of a suitcase nuke into this thing, it's an entrance. Sentenced to be a Hero has an opener that is a damn statement. It's got too much animation to even have a proper ending sequence. The show just keeps on going for 10 minutes after the credits start. This series is more than just flashy action though. It takes a long while, but we do eventually see that Sentenced to be a Hero's story and the lore of this world. That's one of the most intriguing I've seen in an anime for a while. Sentenced to be a Hero likes to present you with what's an objectively cool thing, idea, and then take a little while to even do anything with it. The way the series drip feeds information is a mixed bag. On the one hand, I found it frustrating watching at times. I wanted answers and I wasn't getting any. But looking back now it's finished, there was a lot happening, and the vast majority was really interesting. So like this guy, he's been revived so many times he's kind of gotten lost in the source. And that's an interesting concept, which gets put on the back burner until the literal end of the series. And even then, it's a different revelation about the world setup that actually fills in the gap of what's happening with him. But like, is that even really a criticism? There's got too many interesting ideas to me, that the lore is too intriguing, my lobster too buttery, etc. Sentenced to be a Hero is constantly bringing in new concepts without properly finishing its old ones. It's like you order some chips, but before you even eat a few of them, you order another pizza, and then before you even have the slice, you're moving on to a burger. Like, just eat the damn food. The biggest problem here is that some concepts, characters, ideas in the plot, they can lack depth. They can be introduced, be a fun twist, and then they just vanish. But this is season 1, and a short one. I haven't read the source material. I'm willing to bet a lot of this is addressed if I lasted out. I think I'm just complaining about watching an opening, you know? I also think the way it handles these revelations keeps me interested quite well. Like at the end of the first episode, where we get clearer flashbacks to how he was sentenced to be a hero. His last association with the goddess went badly and he was railroaded into service. We're getting more details on the world gradually, but pretty much always in this drip feed system. Maybe a longer or 2-core season would have gotten further in. It would be unfair for me to say it's underdeveloped though. I found it very interesting, and I've seen a first act and nothing more. Like, take this bit at that festival where the captain talks about the intended fate of Terrorita and how she probably would have been lost without Xylo's intervention. It's another sequence which just hints at the darker stuff under the surface, that they're going to dissect her, but things changed when he got involved and now killed 2 demon lords. It's enough to keep me wondering what the fuck's going on with these people. And it serves the characters, even though it doesn't go much further than that. There's this whole system of politics which is actually relevant to its setting, which most anime doesn't bother with. It's this stuff that informs the plot. It's not just alluded to as colour in the background, like, oh, it's there, but we're not going to talk about it. It matters about as much as it can matter without overwhelming things. It's a matter of pace, I guess, too. I like things that can slow down a little bit. I suppose to really get into this, we'd have to divert the story from that 90% adrenaline rush pattern it's currently in into something about politics and corruption, which might not have that same hook to a wider audience. I hope there's bigger developments coming though, because it has been quite an interesting world this is set in. I just want to know more. Give me more of the details. But the first season, when it comes to character, that has been a much fuller picture. So what seemed like it would be an action and world-building show has actually ended up having a lot more heart than I thought. Like, my first impression of this guy was edgelord. I mean, look, he's got that OC that's really cool Shadow the Hedgehog design thing going on, a backstory. But he ends up being the smiling guy with the pink sword, the girl dad. Xylo has so many qualities that make him an easy hero in this genre. He's plunging himself into danger, he's cool looking, he's got this fighting style which animates well and feels different to everyone around him. The knights all have swords, and many we don't even see who they really are, they're helmeted. Then we've got Xylo just lobbing shivs and jumping all over, and this is before he even starts working with the goddess. But all of this could still fit the blank slate cool guy for people to self-insert over, and not much character to actually develop. But look, Xylo does end up getting a personality. And going back into episode 1, it was there the whole time. Now, his arc of grumpy guy who was lightened and brought back to society by the ray of sunshine he has to care for against his will, it's not novel, it's a common enough arc, but let's be honest here, it works. There's nothing wrong with using the type of story that does work. And this is the character setup with a lot of potential for something interesting. There's a ton of stories with this kind of journey for the hero being brought out of their shell by someone like this, and a lot of them are very good. This one is too. Xylo does have a personality, too. I just missed it the first time around because, to be honest, I was distracted by all this cool shit going on. It's raining guts every time. There's an interesting self-loathing in places that's behind a lot of his edgelord traits. But let's look at this later section where he's actually walking around a festival with these two. Even the side characters get to indulge a little on this day-off episode. Like, is that an opium pipe? Who knows? It's a little treat for him. And for Xylo, the indulgence is sitting in prison, reading poetry. He doesn't allow himself any of the fun after what happened. We see him pulled out of this by Terrorita. Their growing bond is getting Xylo to open back up. That's the beating heart of the series. Between her and Kuvia, Xylo is forced into 2 new relationships that challenge his self-imposed exile, dragged back out by the bright, shiny, happy people. Both are worth analysing a little bit here too. By the last episode's hype moments, the way these two are grown together has been really earned. There's this dragon. Oh, and the score coming in, and yeah, they're both still just lobbing knives around. But this time they're working entirely in sync. Xylo's out of his shell and it's paying off in combat. The whole last fight is worth the price of admission for the season. It's in this last big action sequence that he realizes he's done this before. This in-sync fighting, and has a moment of realization. But this time, he's going to do it differently. He's been on an arc to atone for the past this whole time, and now he does manage to do it differently. This demon lord even says he's like the victor of an epic poem at the end. You know, like those poems he was reading in his cell. It's an ending that brings us full circle for Xylo's arc so far by giving Mr. Serious a big pink glowing sword, as well as fight enders that manages to tie up bigger emotional arcs in a physical act. Xylo's arc is getting over losing someone, a guilt, getting to a place where you can open yourself up again. It's most obvious in how he changes with Terrorita, but with his relationship with the captain is just as important. They're even all together in a ton of key scenes, like in the festival. She says at the end of that scene, "You've given me reason to reevaluate you." And that's kind of the achievement that we see him do over this whole season, coming from a low position in this world to regain people's respect and change the way they interact with their society, to have more and more people see through the fate forced on him and see the person behind the hero label. It's in this scene that she says he's actually capable of smiling. Terrorita's excitement at the festival, getting her snacks. Look, they're a weird little family. An angry family. Captain Kuvia has an interesting character arc to go through too. She starts out as a willing participant in the Holy Knights, being a physical embodiment of this chivalry and honor system that Xylo has fallen afoul of. And we see her gradually lose her faith in certain institutions through Xylo, first beginning to open up to the idea that the heroes aren't what society thinks they are, and by the end, well, you've seen it, you know what happens to her. The captain goes from a military mind, accepting orders as they're given, and acting as the hand of the powerful people pulling these knights around, to someone questioning everything for themselves, looking out for the people in their care, the same principles, the same honor that she mentions early on. But by the end, it's a better definition of honor and duty, one that's about the people and not just enacting the whims of an authority. She's a more interesting cipher to go through the state of this corrupt world and its religious institutions, since she still has the faith to lose. But that's part of what makes her arc work with Xylo. I could make the whole videos on a few of these people, really. If Xylo and Terrorita are the heart of the story, then this whole thing going on behind that, that's the intrigue. It's not just these two, either. There's so much in the side characters too that are fun, like mid-season where Xylo's raging out about some orders, but this hero happens to be a fantastic negotiator. He's literally got Saul Goodman on his team, or the delusional king over here. He's great. Most of the focus tends to go to the core 3 though, and a lot of that is on Terrorita's quest for praise. Alt title for this series could really be Waiting for Head Pats instead of Sentenced to be a Hero. As the season wound on, it became very clear that this series was going to make a lot of people smile. I like a nice action, not much going on kind of experience as much as anyone else, but I think Sentenced to be a Hero is much more than that. At one point in the first fight, Terrorita literally has to give him the option of working with her or dying, saving his life. The bond they establish there is not crazy subtle, but there is a lot of subtlety in how they grow closer. Because by the end, I mean, look at this guy and his big pink sword. He's very happy, and the episode just ends. It's this fantastic little show where there's too much peak animation to even fit the credits in. Goldad Xylo killing the monsters again. That initial darkness has given way to something really fun, but that doesn't mean we've left behind that constantly intriguing plot. The darkness at the heart of this world. The more you learn about it, the more there seems to be room for a lot more story. It's not perfect, but I think if this aired a season later, it might have been a lot bigger. I hope there's not a huge wait to see where the story goes, because revisiting to make this video, I'm kinda hooked again. Hey, thanks for watching. I've been Comfy Learn. Sub if you want to see some similar stuff. Alright, cheers.